Ever wondered how often we fall prey to common misconceptions? How many of these so-called facts are actually myths? We've all been there. We hear something, it sounds plausible, we accept it as truth. But what if some of those truths are actually falsehoods, masquerading as facts? Today we're going to delve into the fascinating world of misconceptions, shaking the foundations of what we think we know. We'll be debunking 5 common myths that most of us believe. Let's prepare to challenge what we think we know, shall we? First on our list is the widely believed myth that we only use 10% of our brains. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? This myth has been circulating for decades, often credited to misunderstood quotes from Albert Einstein, or misinterpretations of neurological research. But let's set things straight. Scientific evidence shows that we use virtually every part of our brain, not just a mere tenth. Each region of our brain has a unique function, whether it's controlling our heart rate, enabling us to recognize faces, or allowing us to learn a new language. Modern brain imaging techniques like functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, reveal that even during sleep, all parts of our brain show some level of activity. Moreover, if 90% of the brain were useless, brain damage would be less debilitating, which is clearly not the case. So there you have it, we're all using more than just 10% of our brains. Next up is the myth that cracking your knuckles will lead to arthritis. Heard that one before? This common belief has been around for quite some time, often used by parents and grandparents to dissuade the younger generation from indulging in this somewhat unsettling habit. But where does this myth originate? It's hard to say, but it's likely a result of the loud pop you hear, which can sound a bit alarming if you don't know what's really happening. In reality, that popping sound is just a bubble of gas being released from the fluid in your joints. But does this lead to arthritis? Well, according to numerous scientific studies, there's no direct correlation between cracking your knuckles and developing arthritis. In fact, a study published in the Journal of the American Board of Family Medicine found no increased risk of arthritis in habitual knuckle crackers. Looks like knuckle crackers can sigh in relief. Our third myth is an old classic. Does swallowed gum really stay in your system for 7 years? Let's take a trip down memory lane to your childhood, where this myth likely originated. Picture an adult wagging a finger at you, warning about the perils of swallowing gum. Here's the truth. While it's true that the synthetic components of gum are indigestible, that doesn't mean they set up camp in your stomach for the better part of a decade. The human body is a marvel of nature, equipped with a robust digestive system that pushes out non-digestible items in a matter of days, not years. In fact, our bodies are constantly dealing with non-digestible items, from the cellulose in vegetables to the occasional piece of popcorn kernel. It's all part of the process. So, while it's not advisable, swallowing your gum isn't quite the 7-year sentence we thought it was. Ever heard the phrase blind as a bat? Well, is it true that bats are blind? This popular myth likely originated due to bats' unusual habits and appearances. However, it couldn't be further from the truth. Bats possess a complex and highly developed sensory system. Their echolocation abilities, which use sound waves to navigate, are so advanced that they can detect objects as fine as a human hair. But that doesn't mean they can't see. In fact, many bat species have excellent night vision. Turns out bats have a pretty impressive vision. Last but not least, do ostriches really bury their heads in the sand when they're scared? This is quite an amusing image, isn't it? But where did it come from? The myth likely originated from the ostrich's defensive behavior when threatened. When an ostrich senses danger and can't run away, it flops to the ground and remains still, with its head and neck flat on the ground. From a distance it might look as if the bird has buried its head in the sand, but let's set the record straight. Ostriches are the largest and fastest birds on land, reaching speeds up to 60 miles per hour. They'd much rather use their strong legs to outrun danger than attempt to hide. And honestly, burying their heads in the sand? That would leave them vulnerable to predators, not to mention the suffocation risk. So, ostriches might be a bit quirky, but they're not head-burying scaredy cats. So we've busted some common myths today. Surprised? We've learned that we actually use much more than a mere 10% of our brains, that cracking knuckles won't give us arthritis, and that swallowed gum doesn't stick around for 7 years. We discovered that bats aren't blind, and ostriches don't stick their heads in the sand out of fear. It's been quite a journey into the realm of myth-busting. Remember, not everything we hear or read is true. Sometimes it's just a myth waiting to be busted.